Hello and welcome back to Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Last time we took on the Sand Barioth, now today we're taking on the Glacial Ignactor, cousin of our Denizen of the Molten Deep. This is going to be taking place in the tundra, so be sure to bring some hot drinks. It's going to be pretty freaking cold. So, what is a Glacial Ignactor other than basically an ice version of an Ignactor? Well, your first answer should still be an ice version of an Ignactor, because that's really the best way to describe this guy. And because of that, it gets me back into the reason why I don't really like subspecies. Because if you think about it, why would something that's super hot like an Ignactor get anywhere close to a cold region? But thankfully, unlike most subspecies, the Glacial Ignactor has a pretty interesting twist. Its armor is backwards compared to a normal Ignactor. So, to recap, a normal Ignactor, when it comes out of the ground, its body is nice and soft because its body is made of magma and lava, which cools down and hardens, making your attacks bounce off of them. With the Glacial Ignactor, that's flipped around, which I think is actually kind of interesting. So in this case, you really don't want him to go into the ground, because, well, that's how his armor gets hard. But also, if you have a fire-based sword, which is what I have, the sword that I'm using for this is the Dire Morales Longsword. And this is a more of a late-game item, but the fire aspect of it can melt off this monster's armor a little bit quicker. But also the chest of this monster does not have armor on it, so you are more than welcome to go nuts. Also, when he's using that ice beam attack, in fact the wiki calls it a water beam for some reason, his beak melts off, so you can attack his beak normally, much like a normal Ignactor whenever he uses the fire beam. And to compare the Glacial Ignactor with its fiery cousin, there is a few subtle changes. Like, normally a Glacial Ignactor is noticeably smaller than your average fiery Ignactor, and its ice beam attack, which I'm going to continue calling it an ice beam because it makes icy sounds, so I'm going to just associate it with an ice beam. Or it could just be, icy water. Basically the same thing. But whenever he fires that beam, most of the time he will do it in kind of a sporadic way. So, like with that double hip check, which is both awesome and kind of frightening, this is kind of an erratic monster. So when he uses his ice beam, there's a very good chance that he will sweep it around and try to hit you from just a wide angle, and it's pretty effective. So with a normal Ignactor, what that guy would do would be he would come out of the ground, so he'd pop out of the ground part way, and then he would just fire the beam onto the ground, and it would just go into circles, which could be effective, but nothing seems quite as crazy as the Glacial Ignactor's ravaging ice beam attack that will knock out multiple people, so you and your fellow hunters, out of the way like bowling pins. I'd only say that because that was actually a reference once from a earlier video that I've done, where someone decided to use a hunting horn to heal us, and then 3 of us were taken out by this guy's sweeping ice beam attack. And so now we're going to get on to the notes of this guy, which is always fun. So when low on stamina, it won't be able to fire its water beam, much like a normal Ignactor. It will recover its stamina by preying on herbivores such as a Bullfango, and I think it's pronounced an Anteca or Popo. Glacial Ignactor is smaller in size, so I mentioned that earlier. It will fire its sweeping water beam more often, mentioned that too. And and on the wiki also says the armor on its beak will instantly melt. So, you know, there is the fire weapons, which you really should have kind of pieced that together on your own if it wasn't obvious enough. That this guy is also weak to fire, but weirdly enough, when he doesn't have his armor on, he has a weakness to dragon, which I kind of find just a little bit odd. But anyways, you can tell when his armor is melted as there is a puff of steam that occurs and the armor changes from white to, I think, a blue-green. I kind of have this page somewhat minimized. Yes, to a blue-green. And I would sort of argue that because if it is a blue-green, it's kind of hard to see. And also the Agnactor, the Glacial Agnactor, from what I've noticed, when its armor starts melting, it will kind of shiver a little bit, and it's just a brief pause. Let's see, what else do we got here? The Agnactor doesn't have armor on its chest, mentioned that too. The Glacial Agnactor takes longer to burrow into the ground, leaving the hunter to take a few extra to make a few extra hits, sharpen his weapon, or heal. I would strongly recommend healing out of all those, because you don't want to be messing around when a kind of a erratic monster is going to dig into the ground and then you suddenly don't know where he's at. So make sure you heal and, well, pray to God that it doesn't hit you too quickly. The Glacial Agnactor's roar requires earplugs to block, and the Glacial Agnactor, along with its standard variant, has the largest amount of body parts that can be broken. So with this guy, the chest will be excluded because, well, there's no armor on the chest. So that leaves the beak, the back fin, all four limbs, and its tail. So its tail, but not when it's severed. So we won't count that. That still accounts for a total of 7 body breaks, which is absurd. With a normal Agnactor, it's 8. So, holy crap. And so if you want this guy's armor, you're going to have to work for it. And so that about does it for the notes. What I want to do next is I just want to make a brief disclaimer about the next couple of videos. And that is initially I was going to do basically all subspecies once or something like that. And up next on the list was the Black Diablos and the Steel Urgon. And I did some checking, and it's quite literally the exact same fight, more so with the Black Diablos. There is virtually no difference at all other than a color change. At least with the Steel Urgon, it has an extra status effect, which is soiled. But aside from that, there is absolutely no difference between the two subspecies compared to their normal counterparts. So I'm not going to do those, but instead, to make up for it, I'm going to be doing 2 extra quests. One of them is the Mark of the Hero quest, which is kind of like the end game village quest, and that's going to be a bit of a doozy, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to that one. And the other one is it's going to be less of a quest and more of a full-on tutorial on how to do egg quests. Because if you're a fan of Monster Hunter, you've played Monster Hunter for a while, you know about egg quests. And if you know about egg quests, your first instinct is, oh my god, freaking hate egg quests. Because they're just that awful. And so I'm going to do a full-on guide on how to do every type of egg quest there is imaginable. Because frankly, no one likes egg quests. They're such a pain. And also, I did point out, like, at the very, very beginning of the series that I was still debating on whether or not to do egg quests, so sticking to my word here, so yeah. But anyway, so that was the Glacial Agnactor. The poor guy didn't really stand a chance, but he did give me quite a bit of trouble here, and I'm not saying that my experience is better than yours, but if he can give me this kind of trouble, then there's a good chance, especially with the newer hunters, you're probably going to get knocked out once, possibly twice with this guy. So I would give you, let's say, a new hunter against this guy, maybe an average between 15 to 25 minutes, just, at a maximum. So yeah, that was the Glacial Ignactor. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Take care, people.